It's really exciting to be here at the PMF for the fourth time, so let's get into this discussion. But before that, I have one little exercise for you. I want you to take an imaginary pair of glasses out of your pockets and just put them on. They're not your regular pair of glasses, right? They're AI colored. And what does that mean? It means that when you put them on, certain things get really bright. So everything's being amplified. The way that your teams are producing work is extremely fast. Users are really happy because they're getting things at an infinite amount of speed. But then something gets weird. You know, the glasses turn gray and black, and you're like, what's happening? And that's because certain things are hallucinating. Not everything that you see is actually accurate. You have concerns over your private data. Ethics are being blurred, and your brand's voice starts to drift. Why is this happening? Why are things getting brighter and darker day after day, and you're very confused? And that's because the last 3 years haven't been incremental, right? They've been exponential. We know that already. We're living it around us. It started with these foundational models unlocking reasoning and creativity, and soon that being democratized, where everyone around us are using these tools, playing with the tools. You know, these models came from labs to our laptops, and that in turn ignited this gold rush of competition, where everyone's trying to build the next biggest thing. Soon after, these models proved to us that instead of learning patterns, they can actually reason in a step-by-step format. And then it just surprised us where it could look at speech, image, voice, text, all in one multimodal space. It changed businesses overnight. We're in this agentic era where agents are no longer the components that's helping us with our work. It's making decisions on our behalf. And as we move into the last part of this year and the following year, we'll start to realize that bigger isn't always better. It's the time where intelligence needs to be scalable, deployable, and smarter with fewer parameters. And this isn't just a list of models, right? It's not just a list of capabilities, but it's truly changing the way that we're working in our day-to-day. And as someone said in a slightly different way, with great models come great possibilities. We see that around us. I used to work for companies where we spent hundreds and thousands of euros building the perfect imagery and videos for our platforms. And now this is being done at scale in a fraction of the costs. And distribution is completely being killed. I mean, do you remember a time where people would spend, their careers trying to learn how to rank on the top positions on Google? They were trying to optimize SEO, search engine optimization. And now we're transitioning to the space where we're moving into AEO, right? Answer engine optimization. If your brand, your product, what you're building isn't being indexed in what ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, or Gemini is outputting, you're already losing on the visibility game. It's the same for user research. I mean, remember the time when user research was episodic instead of continuous? So I was in the same position. We would spend weeks trying to recruit people, interview them, summarize the results, figure out what to do. And now, even companies like Best Secret, using the new and improved user research tools, are running hundreds of micro-tests. It's no longer about what your customer did last month, right? It's about what do they want today and tomorrow. And the best part of it is this question, who gets to build? So previously, who gets to build question was sitting on the select few who had that specialty knowledge, who had those software engineering skills. And now everyone around us is building, shipping, monetizing products in weeks and months, right? And this is being, software engineering is being democratized, and companies are seeing this too, because your own customers can be your competitors if you don't have that strong moat. You can be replaced by a customer who knows how to build. So we are in this, we're in this situation, in this last few years, where we see that these individual changes in research, distribution, building, they're all symptoms of a much larger economic earthquake. And what that means is that currently the cost of producing a good output is nearing to a zero. It means that once you've set up the model, you've set up the process, you've set up the entire end-to-end process of how things work, every additional unit costs almost nothing. And when that happens, the demand for productivity just rises. I mean, here, if you have a marketing agent building 100 campaigns that it used to take a person a week or 2 weeks to do so, or a customer care agent, solving customer problems, hundreds and thousands in a day by using vision, speech, text, all at once, demand for that productivity just skyrockets. And that leads to businesses and your own customers asking for more, because they're experiencing this in the day-to-day. They want more personalization, more immediacy, more everything. And the only way to meet that scale is with agents. And when I say agents, it's basically intelligent systems that don't just assist you, but also do things on your behalf. And I know we've been talking about this, right? And there's also people that think that this is coming. This is not coming, this is here. In the cloud itself, right now, there are about 1 million agents that people are building, that others are using. So we are already in this reality. So what should we do? There's this insane amount of capability available, plenty of tools. There is just every possibility of an opportunity. And what should companies like us do, right? Where should we get started? So even in my teams at Best Secret, we really looked at what do successful companies do right. And it essentially boils down to 3 things. It might sound pretty simple and obvious, but stay with me. It just makes so much sense. The first one is everyone uses it. What does that mean? You go into a company, talk to your colleagues, and everyone knows what the latest tools are. So they're using it. A marketing person is using it to summarize campaign results. Product is using it to cut short discovery from a few weeks to a day. Customer care is closing tickets in half the time. Everyone knows that it can raise the ceiling for them and democratize the skills. So that's the first thing. But that's very easy to say, right? Like everyone using it. But I think there's a step 0 to that, is before everyone even uses it, you need to ensure that people adapt to it. And at Best Secret, we went down this rabbit hole, right? And I think just like every other company, we did the same. We created a memo. I sent a really inspirational email to my team saying that you have to use AI. It's the next biggest thing. If you're not using AI, it will impact your growth performance. We need to get going here. And just like my colleagues, nothing changed. Weeks passed, and people were still pretty stuck to their old way of working. And here, as leaders, what we need to do is to ensure that there's not just top-down transformation, there also needs a bottom-down approach, a bottom-up approach. And what that means is that as leaders, we need to set the vision, the guidelines, the guardrails too of what you can and can't do, and also provide you with the relevant tools that you can use. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is you can't expect people to learn with training. People learn not with trainings, but with community and practice. When we provided these tools to our teams, we saw that each domain used the same set of tools in completely different ways. So we went and created role-specific trainings so they can go deep into using the same tools, go deep into their domain. And number 3, we don't let learnings happen in silo. We have specific AI guilds, which started off as people just sharing memes created out of AI, which has now translated to people building prototypes and sharing it in the space. You need to make learnings not happen in silo, but in a community with peers. So that's step 0 and 1. Get your team to adapt it. And secondly, get them to understand what is the ceiling they can hit with it. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is then the teams and the people need to understand how can they transform their existing process with AI. Let me give you an example, right? We have 500,000 products available on our platform, and each of these products, before you see them and can buy them, goes through a specific set of steps. They go through tagging, categorization, inputs of data, and certain other steps before it goes live. And so one of the product person actually looked at this and said, how can we actually use one of these very basic large language models to do that first 50, 60% of the process? And what that ensures is that you see this directly being impacted in the P&L because that speed is checked off, and now your people are investing in the quality. So that's the second bit, is getting them to understand that this is a specific process that is repeatable, that's being done every day. How can we use AI to transform it for speed? That's 2. And number 3 is a slightly harder question, right? We've used AI to improve our speed. How can we use it to differentiate? How can we truly inflect growth? And think about this, because this is also something that we are trying to experiment with, is imagine an embodied AI that continuously monitors the drop in your user journey. Let's say it's checkout, right? Continuously monitoring certain drops in the checkout, continuously testing, is this drop coming from a failed voucher redemption or a failed payment method or a failed UI issue, right? And doing continuous fixes or redirecting the potential continuous fixes to the relevant teams or fixing it itself. And here we're talking about monetization at scale, retention at scale, depending on what journey are you optimizing for. So that's number 3, is you look at how do we use AI so to not just improve speed, but also to inflect growth. We've also seen companies fail when they're trying to build AI products. We went that route too, and then we realized it is the first thing is usually how companies, at least, I don't know if any of your companies is PE owned, but usually what happens is the investors call the leadership and they're like, my portfolio companies are doing AI, you should too, go into it. And then everyone's scrambling, right? They're trying to figure out what can they build, an AI chatbot, an image generator, something else. And there is no cohesive strategy. No one knows the why. And as a result of it, you're implementing several disconnected solutions, but if you combine them, neither is doing enough to lift acquisition, retention, or monetization. And the reason people fall into this trap is because they skip the truly necessary but unglamorous parts of AI. You know, we talk about AI and productivity and all the cool stuff, but if you and your teams are not diving deep into ensuring that you have good instrumentation, observability, and feedback loops, your model is not going to give you what you're looking for. You need to truly understand, first of all, what models and capabilities you need to use, and secondly, how can you improve them so it gives you what you're intending for that use case. And here, it is a challenge. I truly understand why companies get so confused. There is, you know, if you look at the tech landscape, there are about 70,000 enterprise AI products that just came out last year. It must be overwhelming to figure out which tool to commit to, which model to commit to. I mean, we've used models that, you know, after a few months got deprecated and we had to rebuild our entire data pipelines. And one thing that we learned internally was that anytime we go into building an AI product, we build it for adaptability. What does that mean? It means that your data pipelines, your model, and your interface are modular. They're swappable. So every time there's a new model or a new technology, you need to ensure that it can just be swapped with your current structure. Because if you go about building your data pipelines again, that's not being modular and you're not building for scale. So that's the number one learning that we got after trial and testing. Because I mean, this specific line, I heard it in a podcast, right? We are not optimizing for the snapshot because a lot of people overinvest in looking at what's happening around them. And then they overinvest, commit to one single thing, put all their eggs in their basket. We're optimizing for the slope. You're standing at the bottom of a mountain and there's still a lot to come. So let's look ahead and build our systems and capability to accommodate for that. So your company is supercharged with AI tools. That's amazing. Your people are supercharged with AI. That's great. Let's imagine we are there, right? What could possibly go wrong? Everything looks like it's a perfect world. And this is what some of the companies, especially in the Bay Area as well, are debating, is that will our current organizational structure be sufficient for this new ways of working? And it totally makes sense. I mean, imagine you have all these great tools and you have a totally new way of collaborating, but your company structure is the same. The old ways of how we organized ourselves, the hierarchies, the silos between departments, the review cycles, they were built for a slower era. Because when you think about it, as AI agents become capable teammates, work no longer flows in hierarchy. It routes to whoever or whatever is best placed to solve that. I mean, think about it yourself. If you have a team of people and agents and you have a problem that's discovered, you're just waiting a week to figure out who's the point of contact in a whole different team to solve that. That's just friction. And so we need to, as an organization in the future, think about how can we move from reporting lines, where people are just reporting in structures and are siloed, to routing lines. How can we ensure that the problem that is spotted is just routed to the best set of people and agents, and work is just done faster? So we're, McKinsey also calls it, which I never who looks at McKinsey anymore, but they made a very good point, is they call this the new operating model for AI, right? It's structured around faster, flatter networks, which is focused on outcomes rather than hierarchy. So we've talked about these four things: the pace of change, the marginal cost, the 3 steps of adoption, and the new organizational model needed to survive it. But I have, for people, I mean, there might be people sitting in this room that they're doing their 5th AI project, or people that are just about to figure out where to go. And I also want to give this to you as a closing, right? And these are 4 hard questions that we need to take with ourselves tomorrow, on Monday, before we even bring AI into our workflow. And these, this is not R&D questions. These are leadership questions, these are product questions, and it's about delegation, trust, and risk. The first question that you need to take with you is, where should AI touch your product? First of all, identify your problems, but then figure out, where should AI touch your products? You can't just say, I want to have AI in my company. You need to draw your boundaries. Pick one, right? Pick onboarding or specific search or payments. Pick one thing. At Best Secret, we have several journeys that partly are AI automated, but when these journeys trust an element of risk or regulation or legal, we intentionally delegate this to a team. It's also, on the other hand, we've set these confidence thresholds, But if the AI falls below those thresholds, it is redirected to a team. So it's not about blind automation, it's about intentional delegation. That's question number one. Question number two is, how will you maintain trust? And there, you know, most e-commerces, at least the large ones, have automated about 40% of their returns and refunds process. But the savings that they get from that is invested in further oversight, better escalation processes, more guarantees, because they're using that savings to then cater to, you know, edge cases and fraud, or their top 1% of the customers. So you need to understand the savings that you get from automating. Where do you invest so the trust factor still remains? Number three is, how do you manage risk? And here, what I'm saying is, what do you want if you have a consumer application? Are you okay with that chatbot saying no too often and frustrating the user? Or you're okay with the fact that it tells you, gives you information, but it's slightly false? So there might be specific parts of your user journey where you might be okay with a certain threshold of false positive or false negative. And that's what you need to define and set. And lastly, it's, will you build or buy fine-tuning capability? This was also one of the questions that we had a really great discussion yesterday in the Tech and Leadership Conference, right? And for us at Best Secret, we buy for speed and build for differentiation. And it might be different for you, right? Like for us, one concrete example I can give you is in e-commerce, especially in fashion, size and fit is always a biggest challenge. And what we've done is, even though it's our core business, fashion, we have worked with confident open source models that can get us started. But at the same time, these models were trained with our customers' shopping and return behavior. So we took a hybrid approach that gave us both speed as well as quality. But it might differ for companies by companies. You also need to figure out, do you have the talent to actually to build in-house, right? Even though you're very excited about it. Or do you, are you okay with the ROI of building and training this model coming down in 2 years? Or do you want to buy, but you know, you're compromising a little bit with your data, right? You're exposing the data, your data a little bit. So those are the questions you need to take with you before you even go into building AI or integrating AI into the company. And again, I would like to stress the fact that these aren't R&D questions, right? These are leadership questions and product questions and tech questions that we need to answer before we go and adopt AI, before we go and change the hierarchy of how we are working. So with that, I'll close this as my challenge to you. Put on your AI-colored glasses one more time, go to work, and sit with your team and debate and iterate these 4 questions, because really, truly answering this will help us and you build quality products that we envision to and solve real customer problems. So thank you. And from what I see, we may not have time for any questions.